Rachel from TMR Farms and welcome to my homestead kitchen. Today I'm actually coming out from behind the camera to show you how I'm going to make chicken and noodle star soup or chicken and star soup homemade. So let's get started. First off, I am using chicken thighs. You can do chicken breast, that's fine, but I like the flavor that the thighs have. To me, I don't know why we're so obsessed with chicken breast because chicken thighs taste way better. So we're going to take and put these in a pot of boiling salted water to let them start cooking, and that's where we're going to get our broth base. We also have here for the rest of our soup, we've got some fresh carrots which have been peeled and I'm going to chop them up. I've gotten some herbs from my garden, so I got a couple of sprigs of oregano, a sprig of thyme, a little bit of rosemary, and a little bit of sage. And these are all just going to go whole into my pot. Now we're going to chop the carrots. And I'm just going to chop each end off just enough to get the very ends off. And then I'm just going to rough chop them basically. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just looking for a nice chop so that these can get cooking with my chicken. I'm also going to be doing an onion. One trick a friend taught me back when I was doing Pampered Chef is that if you cut off the onion's hat and leave his bottom, he won't make you cry as much. And for whatever reason, that seems to work. I don't know. Chicken, and my onions are going to go into a warm cast iron skillet preheated with a little bit of butter to soften up. Now with normal chicken and stars or chicken and noodle soup, it usually has celery. I don't like celery, so I'm leaving that completely out, and instead I'm going to toss in a can of green beans as we get closer to the end of cooking it, because that's how I like it. But if you like celery, by all means put celery in it. It smells really amazing in here right now with the herbs starting to cook and the onions going. But I'm going to go ahead and get started on my pasta, and I'm doing an egg pasta for this. So I've got my all-purpose flour with a little bit of salt, and I'm going to break my egg into it. Okay, now we're going to very carefully try to mix the flour with the egg without having the egg spill all over the place. So I'm going to start by breaking up the yolk a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of start mixing the flour in. Alright, we've got one egg pretty much incorporated. It's not incorporated into the flour completely, but it's incorporated as far as not just being a big lumpy egg anymore. So now I'm going to try to kind of wrangle in my flour a little bit, and we're going to add egg number 2. If you start to get some container failure, move your flour around to try to catch it. You can also use a bowl if you want to do that. Then you don't have to worry as much about containing it, but I don't know, I like doing it this way. Feels more old-fashioned or something. Okay, as it's starting to come together more, I'm going to abandon my fork for the time being, try to flour up my hands a little bit, and start working it with just the tips of my fingers for now. It takes a little bit of work to get the dough to start coming together, because it is a very dry dough. It's not like a batter or a bread dough even, it's very, very dry. And just as you start getting it more together, you can start going in with more of your hands and take a little bit more flour. Flour your hands a little better if you need to, and start really kneading it and working it. Okay, now that we've got this worked a little bit, we don't have to do it too much because our pasta machine is going to work it a lot. We are going to wrap this in plastic wrap and we're going to stick it in the fridge to rest for 30 minutes.
Okay guys, so now that our pasta is done resting, we're going to start working with it. While it was in the refrigerator, we turned our soup down to a simmer from a boil. I also removed the chicken thighs. They're fully cooked through now. So I removed those, let them cool just till I could touch them, and then shredded them. You could also chop them just to make small pieces so that you're not getting huge chunks of chicken in your soup when you're eating it. Now I'm starting to work with my pasta. I do cut it in half because it makes it a little bit easier to work with because it's going to get really long as it passes through the machine. Every time it goes through, it gets a little bit longer. I also like to fold it up on itself as I do it so that it retains a nicer, more rectangular shape. It's not going to be perfect, but it keeps it neater and more uniform. And all you have to do is keep it really well floured so that it's not sticking in your machine, it's not folding up on itself and getting stuck. If it feels tacky at all, flour it again. And don't worry about flour being on the outside of the pasta. That's not really going to affect anything too much. And start at the lowest setting on your pasta machine, or the widest setting. On mine that's a 0. So start at 0 and then just put it through, going up one turn at a time as you get thinner and thinner, and just take it to the desired thickness that you want. I went for a 7 with mine, which is pretty thin, but you can go even thinner than that. Or if you like a chunky pasta, you could go thicker. Just remember that the thicker it is, the more time it's going to take to cook. And you do want that kind of, like in a chicken and stars soup, traditionally what you would get from like a store-bought brand is a very small, thin noodle. So you kind of do want to keep that type of consistency just so that it matches what you're used to. But it does take a little bit of practice, but it's not hard at all, and you just keep passing them through over and over until it gets to the thickness that you want. And then once it's there, just take it, lay it out, flour it really well so that it's not staying tacky. And then after we flour it, we're going to start cutting it into our shapes.
So in order to make the and stars part of the soup, we have to have these tiny little cutters. I got mine at a cake decorating store called Mary Carter's, but I'm sure you can find them online and stuff too. And I'm going to be using the star and the heart-shaped cutters. Also, helpful hint, don't dump all of these out at one time because they're really hard to get back in if you do that with all the funky little shapes. So there, this slightly dirty lid just shows you what this is in the brand, because I don't know what they're technically called other than tiny cutters, so I don't know how you would find them, but I guess having the brand there will make it easier if you don't have a cake decorating store in your city. I'm gonna flour them and do stars.
Okay guys, there's our chicken and stars and hearts pasta. It's really, really yummy, and all that we did is, after I finished cutting out the shapes, I tasted my broth to be sure it had the flavor that I wanted. I added a little bit of fish sauce, which doesn't make it fishy at all, just gives it a really nice savory flavor. I added my can of drained green beans as well. They don't need as long to cook because they're already cooked, so we just kind of add them last. And then I also added my pasta, and I boiled it for about 2 to 3 minutes is all it took to get the pasta cooked, and then it's totally ready to eat at that point. Do be sure to taste your broth as you're going, just to be sure that it's salty enough and has enough flavor. If it doesn't, you can add more salt or pepper or herbs, or you can even add a stock cube or whatever you need to add. And that's all there is to it. It's really fun and delicious, and I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe here on this channel. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tiramar Farms, all those places. And I also have a homesteading channel here on YouTube. That is youtube.com/Tiramar Homestead. For the full recipe and all of the ingredients, there's a link down in the description box. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all around next week.